Welcome to our video today, our series on developing leaders. Today I want to provide you with a simple design approach. If your ministry calls for it, here's a simple one, and it's 3 points. The first one is structuring your process. The second one, part 2, is selecting your people. And then part 3 is servicing your leaders. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Training, and here is the first part 1 of a simple design approach to developing a leadership process for your ministry is the structuring of your process. In it, you're going to have categories. By that, I mean that you are going to have levels of leadership in your ministry, both through every ministry in your church and then levels of leaders in your church. So, for instance, you may have at the top level, you as the senior pastor, then your pastoral staff, and then your lay leaders, your board, your elders, your deacons, your trustees, your stewards. Your ministry leaders then are volunteer, and so you have paid staff and volunteer staff, and then you've got folks who oversee several ministries, and then people who just oversee one ministry, and then you may have leadership teams where you've got a leader of leaders and they're overseeing a particular ministry, and so you're going to have categories, and you want to structure this so that you can see every place and every ministry that needs a leader, whether it's one leader or a team of leaders, and how they're leveled out, how they're organized. Along with this, your structure should have components. Components that we're going to go through some of them in just a moment when we deal with the service to your leaders, but so that you can look at the parts of your process and see each part in each person, each policy, each procedure. It has components to it, like a car is made up of components. And then there has to be coordination. Coordination is where everything is working together and organized in a way that makes it work. It is coordinated. You can't have a car that's out of alignment. The wheels have to be coordinated together, and they have to cooperate together to move you down the road without trouble. And so there has to be in your structure coordination and cooperation where people are agreeing to work together, and then collaboration where they actually work together and are collated together, where they each find their place and one ministry folds in upon the other and they fit neatly together. If you've ever shuffled a deck of cards and you know what happens if they don't collate, if they don't shuffle together correctly. And so your ministry has to be organized, coordinated, everyone cooperating together and collaborating together in order for it to work. And you need to build into your structure at least these 6 parts. And then let's talk about the selection of your leaders. And think of it, do this. Rick Warren years ago, I believe in the mid-90s when he wrote The Purpose-Driven Church, he talked about one of the things they did was made a Saddleback Sam and a Saddleback Sally. And in it they had a stick figure of a man and a woman, and they wrote down the characteristics of what they would look like, talking about the people from their community, their target audience. Well, instead of doing it for the people group that God has called you to reach, or people groups, go and look at your leadership and make a stick figure and write out for you both the characteristic and the trait. And we're going to go through 4 things here: characteristics and capabilities and compatibility and conduct. And draw up a stick figure and make an evaluation sheet where you can grade them as you evaluate them when you're going to select your leaders and what characteristics are important to you. So here is a list. It's not exhaustive or comprehensive, but it's a list to help you start, and I put them all into A's. So you want to grade a person on this evaluation list, or this person that stick figure you've drawn up, so you can look at their traits. When you consider their characteristics, are they authentic, or are they wearing a mask? Are they accountable, or do they always shift responsibility to somebody else. They'll never take responsibility for something that's gone wrong. All they want is recognition and reward for something that went well. Do they acknowledge your leadership and your place in God's economy? And do they acknowledge God as the Lord of their life? Are they a fully devoted and developing follower of Christ? Is there acknowledgement of God and the need for Him and the need for others in their life? Do they acknowledge their weaknesses? Are they aggressive or are they passive? And a leader is someone who helps you look at the future, determine what challenges are coming, and helps you prepare for those challenges in the future so that they can move your ministry forward. They have to be somewhat aggressive to do that, not passive, where they let it happen to them. And the Bible in Proverbs talks about the simple man does not make preparation or see the calamity that is coming, and he walks right into it and is damaged. And so you need people that are aggressive. They are driven in a right way and aggressive about being proactive to prepare for the future. That's leadership. Then are they attentive? Are they attentive? Are they paying attention? Are they focused? Or are they easily distracted and detoured or defeated because they don't pay attention? Do they give attention to the task at hand? Can you trust them to carry out something you've assigned to them? Are they abiding in Christ? Are they walking in the Spirit? Do they have the fruit of the Spirit in their life? Or are they just all over the place spiritually? One day they love the Lord and the next day not so much. So as you look at their characteristics, what do they hate? What are they really affectionate about? If all they ever talk about is money and getting that second or third house or that speedboat or that fast car or, this clothing or jewelry or, pick your thing. Pick your thing. And their affections are not on those things that are above, and the thing that really drives them are not the things of Christ in your ministry, but are fleshly things or things that are going to pass away. You need them to have their affection set on the eternal, and you need to grade them on that. Now, anointed. Do you feel like God's got His hand on them for a certain cause or a certain person or a certain time or a certain ministry that you feel like the Lord's just really prepared them for such a time as this? And then what attributes about them? When you look at their characteristics and you feel that here are some important attributes that ought to be a part of a believer's life who's going to lead in this particular ministry. And you have different attributes needed for different ministries, for different contexts. And then are they authoritative or just an authoritarian? Do what I say, don't do as I do. Or are they one who is authoritative? They're credible. People believe them. People believe that they're speaking the truth. Christ was looked at as one who was authoritative. He spoke, and the Pharisees were astonished, and those in the temple were astonished at how he was teaching because he did so with authority. Appearances. Do they have gravitas? I'm not talking about, are they handsome as all get out or beautiful as all get out, but their appearances in every way, the way they carry themselves, how they groom themselves, how God put them together. In appearance, do they have the characteristics that you think are needed to fill the slot that you want them to fill in your ministry as you've structured it? And then are they appealing? I don't mean that they're, appealing in the wrong way. I'm talking about, do people like them? Are they attracted to them? Do they want to follow them? Do they have credibility? And are they appealing so that they can lead people? Are people turned off by them because of their personality type or certain characteristics or appearances about them? Are they arrogant? Are they easily angered? What amazes them? Are they anxious all the time or struggle with anxiety? Are they anchored? Being anchored is important because the Bible teaches, Peter, Paul, and James, all three teach in the New Testament, that a believer is going to face tribulation, that we are going to have trials and testing times. And God says that it's for his glory and our good, so that we would be perfect and entire, lacking nothing, and that we would persevere. So with God's purpose for testing us, has this leader anchored himself to the Lord to weather the storms of life and to be able to stay true and committed and authentic in his faith? Or are they unanchored and just thrown with every wind and every wave? So as you look at them, is this important to you? And it's a characteristic that you ought to evaluate them as you select your leaders. What do they avoid? Do they avoid conflict? Do they avoid difficult people? Because as a leader, you've got to deal with conflict and you've got to deal with all kinds of characters. And then, are they easily afraid? Are they trusting God? Do problems make them run away, or do they solve them? Are they easily afraid, and what are they afraid of? Well, you need to get into that. And then let's deal with the second thing, along with their characteristics, their capabilities. What abilities do they have? When you stop and look at their abilities, what aptitude? What do they lean toward? What do they lean into? What do they really enjoy doing? What do they do easily? What problems do they conquer, or ministries would they be good at? And so you look at their aptitude, and now are they able? Now, this may seem strange to you, but are they really available for ministry? Are they so already burdened or overloaded with perhaps special needs in themselves or in their spouse or in their children or their job? Maybe they're a police officer or a fireman, or they're a nurse or a medical doctor, or some kind of technician at this time in their life. To ask them to take leadership and to invest a whole chunk of their week or weekend into a ministry is just more than they're capable of giving you. And so you need to look at not only their abilities, but are they able to serve with their abilities? They might not be available yet. And then their aptness, and along with that, their availability. And so their abilities, and are they able? Is there an aptness to them and an availability to them? And what about their accomplishments? What have they already accomplished, perhaps as a leader at home, or in the workplace, or in the community, or in any number of venues in your community? What are their accomplishments? Are they acceptable? Do people that have been leading them in your church, or in the workplace, or at home, have they shown themselves to be acceptable? Are they adequate? And so you look at the level of their capabilities. Are they acceptable? Are they adequate? Are they just average? What attainments have they done? What accomplishments have they done? Are they faithful to carry out their assignments? And what have they been assigned to? So you find someone who is shown themselves to have attained a great amount and accomplished a great amount as a CFO of a corporation, and they're very good with finances, and so they've kept their small assignments at church, and now you see that they're really going to be able to lead us in the area of finances, and because they've done well with that which has been entrusted to them. And in the parable of the talents and the stewards, they were assigned certain amounts, and when they showed themselves faithful and fruitful, they were entrusted with more. So you're using that principle to look at their attainments and their assignments. Do they have they accomplished the kind of things and the certain things in particular that make you want to entrust more to them as a leader? What about assets they bring to the table? Are they full of liabilities, or do they have assets and they're stronger? Grade them. Are they going to be an asset or a liability to our ministry, or to those they are serving, or to our outreach in the community? And so you look at their capabilities. What about their abundances? Is there anything about them that just seems to flow over in life that this guy is so gifted in his capabilities with the gift of mercy that he can be used in a place of leadership to use that abundance of spiritual gifting, and God's working in his life? We need to use him right here. And so you look to see, are there anything that they're just abundant in? And then their appointments. Where have they been appointed that they have failed and succeeded? Has their performance been adequate, average, or above average? Has it been just excellent? You look at their appointments, at the kind of tasks they've been assigned, and how well they performed. One of the areas that burns out pastors and ministry leaders is when they are given an appointment to a post to carry out certain things that requires them to serve in their weaknesses, not serving in their strengths. And it will burn you out if you're caused to serve in your weaknesses for a long extended period of time, where you have no ability to do what you're asked to do, and it's a weak area in your life and you have no passion for it. So you want to look at where they are appointed and determined, is this a good place for them? Who's given them approval? And have they gotten high approval rates? What assignments have they had in the past? Here's one that's important. What about their awareness? A leader needs to be aware of what's happening around him and being sensitive to sympathize and empathize with people, but just an awareness of what's happening. Danger, safety, physical needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs, problems, temptations, bad situations. What are they capable of when it comes to just being aware of that which is around them in every category, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically? Are they aware? We move from that to compatibility. Now, what I mean by this is they need to be compatible with your ministry, with your leadership, and with the position that God wants to put them in. So you look at their attunement, and this is their heart agreement, their passion agreement with your ministry, with your vision, your mission, your values, your strategic plan. Do they agree with the calling God has, and is their heart in it? And then alignment, and this is intellectual. It's ideology. Do they agree with you doctrinally? Do they agree with your theology? Do they agree with your ministry design? Can they buy into it intellectually? Are they in alignment with where you need them and what you need them to do? Then you look at their compatibility of the way they live out their faith, their actions. Are they going to cause problems because they don't hold to the same standards or measurements or values, and they're going to cause a rub? Maybe they don't fit well into your congregation as a whole in the way the congregation's code is set up. And so you've got to help and be able to evaluate how compatible are they in their heart, in their head, and in their hands. Attunement, alignment, actions. What about their attitude? Is it going to be compatible with the rest of the leaders? Do you have an Eeyore where they're always looking at the negative side? The glass is always half empty, not half full. They see a problem in every opportunity, not a great chance to meet a challenge to serve God. And then their agility. Are they flexible, and do they respond quickly to change? So as you look at their compatibility, are they going to be compatible with your ministry and the other leaders you have there and the people that you're caring for and the people you're trying to reach that you've not yet reached with the gospel? The selection of your leaders is very, very important in their character and in their compatibility. And next, in that we deal with is their agreement with everything that is happening and whether or not they're in accord with what you're doing. Are there any advantages to them serving with you? What about their ambitions? And so as you study their compatibility, how do their characteristics, how do their capabilities, and how does their compatibility sum up? And then the last thing that we'll look at with the selection of your leaders is that you talk about their aspirations. Is it in line with what they aspire to, what they hope to be one day? Is it what you think God wants them to be, and is it in agreement, compatible with the aspirations of your church and other leaders in your church? And so you're looking at every one of these areas to then deal with their conduct, their attendance. They ought to be faithful. Their authority, how well do they respond to authority? Anyone who's going to lead has got to be able to follow. their activities of life. How well are they not just faithful to attend, but fruitful in their activities? And are they avid followers of Christ? Are they avid about your ministry there, and that they are gung-ho? You know, guys will get gung-ho about a college football team or some other activity that they're doing and be avid followers of a guru in that area, but they won't talk about their faith. They won't talk about their Savior, and you want to know what they're avid, and their conduct tells you what they're avid about. And so when you select them, look at how they live out their faith. Look at how their attendance is, and how they respond to authority, and what activities do they do. Are they involved in the events and activities of your church? Do they go on that and want to go on that short-term mission trip? Are they involved in the areas where you want them to lead? Because they're going to be establishing credibility before you ever put them into a position of leadership. You better look at their conduct. And so in dealing with the selection of your leaders, I would suggest you set up a simple formula to evaluate your leaders in their character, in their capabilities, in their compatibility, and in their conduct. Now the third area that we're going to deal with is the service to your leaders. You have a responsibility to them, not only to structure your process and to select them, but now you're going to support your leaders. So the support of your leadership, what do you need to do? Well, here's what I suggest that you do in setting up the components or the parts to servicing your leaders. First off, you need to correctly evaluate them. That means that you're going to identify their character, their capabilities, their compatibility, and their conduct. You're going to interview them. They need to look at you, and you need to look at them. But you owe them a biblical, straight-up, prayerful, correct evaluation of who they are and where they belong in God's economy in your ministry. Secondly, is you have to give them some education, instruction, and indoctrination. Don't expect them to go carry out leadership but not teach them all the aspects of what's required of them and others and how it all works together and how to develop themselves as a leader. Next, you've got to equip them. Where you're dealing with education or information in their head, now you're going to equip them where they take their head in their hands and they put it to work. And so you're going to train them. It may be task-oriented that you are doing so, but you're going to show them how to do the work of the ministry. You're going to equip them. So here's a 4-step process for equipping people to any given task. It's not original with me. Comes from John Maxwell in one of the books that he wrote. You've got a 4-step process where you have a leader who is equipping a trainee. In the first phase of this, the first step is for the leader to perform the task with the trainee observing. The second step is for the trainee to join the leader as the leader performs the task. The third step is for the leader to observe while the trainee performs the task. And the last step in the process is for the trainee to perform the task by himself with the leader excluded from it. He's only observing. He's not joining. And so you have to equip them. Teach them the ministry they're wanting to oversee and how they lead it. And then you want to enrich their life. And what I mean by this is help them mature, help them mend broken spiritual bones, make them better in their walk with the Lord and in their service of the Lord, and help them develop as a person and as a leader and in their characteristics and in their capabilities. Help them grow, enrich them spiritually, help them to be more Christ-like. The next area is you want to edify them. What I mean by this is you want them to improve under your leadership, and you want to invest time, and you want them to invest themselves in ministry so that they would be edified, built up. And then you've got to engage them in ministry. When you do, though, enter them into ministry, you look at it as though you are employing them. So you're going to have to entrust them into ministry and engage them into it. It could be a fearful thing if they've never led before to be put into leadership and entered into responsibility, and now you've got a ministry to them as you enter them in to make certain you take care of them as an employee under your charge. Here's another service, and that is you must empower them. By this, I mean you must authorize them and give them your approval so that everyone knows they've been put into this place of leadership and they have the necessary authority to carry out the duties, and they are responsible, therefore they have the authority. So you're going to enable them through authorizing them and approving them. You're going to empower them to carry out the leadership that they've been called to. And you're going to entrust them to carry out the work that they have been given. And so you need to select people that are reliable, dependable, and responsible, trustworthy. And everybody needs to know that they wouldn't be put into this position unless you entrusted them to it, because you have determined and evaluated them, and this person has shown themselves to be reliable and responsible. And it's why I believe you need to do your leadership development process as a team, so that you've got multiple leaders who are developing leaders saying, we trust this person. They are both reliable and responsible. They are dependable and trustworthy. And set it up as a part of your process. Then you've got to do some encouraging. You don't just put them out there like pushing your child when they were 5 years of age or 6 years of age and learning to ride a bike, and you just kind of set them on the bike, put their hands on the handlebars, their feet on the pedal, and shove them down the hill, and never run along beside them to catch them in case they fall, or to encourage them to get back up when they do fall and try it again and keep at it. And so by encouragement, you may have to refresh them or revitalize them or restore them when they get a broken bone or are torn up, a bruised knee in their leadership. And you reassure them of their calling and that you have confidence in them and you believe them competent to carry out their task. And you reinforce their calling and you strengthen them and support them. And so you have a ministry and an obligation and a responsibility to support them through encouraging them. And so when they're leading as a part of your structure, you ought to regularly come alongside your leaders and teach them through encouraging them. Refresh them spiritually, revitalize and energize and re-energize them, and restore them to wholeness, and reassure them of God's love and His work in their lives through testing times that is for His glory and their good. Allow Him, cooperate with God, consider the work that He is wanting to do, and let God have His way with them. You're reassuring them that God has not abandoned them, and reinforce them through strengthening them and supporting them. And then the last part of this that I would encourage you to put into your structure is you owe them the establishing of them as a leader so that they are stabilized, they are set up correctly, they become steady at carrying out their duties, they are settled into the work that you called them to do, and they're settled in and stable and set up and steady, and they are secure in what they're called to do. And you substantiate that they're supposed to be here. And so they are immersed for a period of time leading, and you want to make certain they become established in the eyes of those that are following them, the ministry that they oversee, and the entire church and maybe the community, that this person is stable in his leadership. We've set him up there. He is steady and settled and secure, and we have substantiated his leadership. And then you want to establish them through continual strengthening of them to support them so that they have longevity. And secondly, so that they can move up in those levels of leadership. Remember, we've talked about in another video about the levels of leadership. Well, they start out with the position or a rank, and then they move from a rank to relationships, and from relationships to results where they're able to perform well, and from results to refining others and helping others. And the last level is they're reproducing other leaders. So they're not only refining leaders, but reproducing leaders who will reproduce other leaders. And so you want, I think, at least these things in your simple design approach to your leadership development process, that God would be greatly honored as you carry out and do the work that God's called you to do. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, your ministry design coach with Ministry Design Training and Concepts. You can reach me at this email address or either one of these phone numbers, and we'll be happy to help you one-on-one carry out your ministry design as you develop your leadership training process.